Hello everyone, and welcome to week 6 and my presentation. In this presentation, I will discuss the role of extended producer responsibility through an examination of its objectives, mechanisms in which it is employed, and the current literature on its effectiveness in meeting its intended objectives. In 1990, Thomas Lindquist formulated the extended producer responsibility principle to promote environmental improvements of products and product systems. This had emerged through the analysis of experiences from recycling and waste management systems and the implementation of policy instruments to promote cleaner production. Extended producer responsibility is defined as an environmental protection strategy to reach an environmental objective of decreased total environmental impact from a product by making the manufacturer responsible for the entire life cycle of the product and especially the take-back, recycling and final disposal of the product. The hallmarks of successful extended producer responsibility strategies include the decoupling of economic growth from the depletion of natural resources, increases in resource efficiency, building innovation and social capital, the reduction in disposed waste to incineration and landfill, and the evolution towards a circular economy. Extended producer responsibility seeks to encourage manufacturers to assess the life cycle of their product and to identify and evaluate the environmental impacts during its entire life cycle. Known as a life cycle assessment, it functions to take a holistic view through the development of an environmental impact profile. Early use of the life cycle assessment was for economic objectives to ensure all costings for a product were accounted for. In this context, life cycle assessment for environmental costing has a powerful educational element, assisting manufacturers by outlining the environmental implications of particular options and decisions. As a preventative approach to solving environmental problems, the incorporation of extended producer responsibility in policymaking creates positive feedback loops on the manufacturer by stimulating product improvements for economic and environmental outcomes. This creates a negative feedback loop between the manufacturing environment to reduce environmental impacts. At the other end of the spectrum, the positive feedback loop of waste generation on the environment from production is countered by the negative feedback loop from the extended producer responsibility policies, which function to increase resource efficiency and decrease our reliance on resources. This is done through the application of a range of policy instruments. Most common administrative instruments mandate for producers to take back their products from customers when they reach the end of their life. This is achieved through reuse, recycling and recovery targets to ensure a minimum level of resource reutilization. The policies work to stimulate demand for the recycled materials as a secondary raw material. Economic instruments might employ a materials tax on raw materials used in manufacturing. This is intended to factor in the cost of recycling and reuse of the product. Unfortunately, this cost does not directly include the depletion of natural capital or environmental damage incurred during its life. Since 1990, there has been a rapid expansion of extended producer responsibility policies in OECD countries. Examples in the EU are the End-of-Life Vehicle Directive and the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive. These are supported by indirect directives such as the Eco-Design Directive. In Europe, the effectiveness of the policies is highly variable between products and individual countries. But for the period of 1998 to 2010, the amount of plastic packaging placed into the market increased by 32%, but at the same time there was a 16% increase in plastic recycled. Also, the amount of packaging material sent to final disposal decreased by 54% for the same period. This downward trend is reassuring that the policies which are underpinned by the extended producer responsibility are working to increase resource efficiency and reduce environmental impact from a product. Extended producer responsibility must also take into account resource productivity. A good example is in Japan, where they use two indicators: resource productivity, which is GDP divided by direct material input, and recycling of resources, shown as the amount of reused material over total material used. Japan has set itself a 40% improvement target for 2010. China has also followed suit with its 5-year plan to increase resource productivity by 15%. Both countries incorporating a measure to transition towards a circular economy and decouple economic growth from resource use. In the EU, to help encourage the start of life environmental stewardship, they sought to enact the Eco-Design Directive, which establishes mandatory ecological requirements for energy-related products sold in the EU, such as fridges and light bulbs. This was expanded to include windows and insulation. The primary aim of the directive is to reduce overall energy use, but it also functions to reduce other environmental impacts such as water use, pollution, waste, and recycling. This impetus towards building more sustainable products has potential to stimulate innovation and build capacity. A great example is the first ever washing machine for life. Julien Feda from France developed the first flat pack washing machine. Its pack size is 30% smaller and it uses a water weight instead of cement to reduce transportation impacts. The modular design means it can be updated both technically and physically to meet evolving standards over its 50-year lifespan. The machine is then updated and then resold. In Australia, extended producer responsibility is executed through the Product Stewardship Act 2011. Still in its infancy, some of the items covered under the Act are batteries, plastic microbeads, televisions and computers, and plastic oil containers. Unfortunately, in Australia, eco-design policies are still evolving. Extended producer responsibility has the potential to be a powerful mechanism to reduce our environmental impacts across multiple scales. The most ideal scenario is to operate as a circular economy. Like natural ecosystems, there's no waste at all. Thank you for listening to my presentation.